So today I'm speaking to Mr. Laszlo Rab. He's the order-to-cash leader of Cognizant in Hungary, in charge of the client accounts AR portfolio. So good morning, Laszlo.
Good morning, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Lovely to speak to you. And so where are you calling from? Where are you based at the moment?
I am based in Budapest, in the Cognizant Budapest office, but actually I'm home, which is just outside Budapest in a smaller town. It's more calm and peaceful than the city itself, but it's really like just a half an hour drive. So I'm here in Budapest, around Budapest.
Sure, nice place to be on these beautiful spring mornings. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
So how long have you been working at Cognizant?
So I'm in this current role of order-to-cash leader for medical devices AR portfolio for one of our medical devices clients in 2 years and a half. Of that, 1 year is with Cognizant. Actually, Cognizant has taken over the shared service center operations of our client. This is how we became Cognizant. So now I'm doing the same job, but in as part of Cognizant now.
Okay, because formerly it was KCI Acelity, wasn't it?
It was KCI Acelity, exactly. Yes.
Now, like myself and most people, nobody actually kind of went through school and university and said they were going to work in credit. What was your route? How did you find yourself working in the credit area?
Yeah, indeed. I didn't even have an idea probably at the times of university of collections and credit management. So actually, after quite a while, I think I had been working like 10 years when I joined the order to cash space as a collection manager. I joined GE. I used to work for GE before. Then I left the company and I returned to General Electric as a collection manager. I was in charge of GE healthcare portfolios, mostly in Southern Europe and Eastern Europe and Russia CIS region, and also the Middle East. So that's how I started my career in order to cash in credit. And then I stepped into various roles. I was invoice to cash leader for the Middle East, North Africa, Turkey region. At some point, I was billing, invoicing enterprise standards leader in GE global operation at some time. And I'm in this O2C leader role in the last 2 years and a half.
So quite a varied background and interesting route to where you are today.
Yeah, I could say that actually I did work in different processes of the order to cash, so including order management, invoicing, collections, dispute management, cash applications, and credit management. So yeah, it's kind of diverse in that respect. And I was lucky enough to work with different regions, so not just Europe, but also Southern Europe, some Eastern Europe. Then I had customers in Middle East. There was a time, and even now we work with US and Canadian entities. So it really helps a lot if you have exposure to different regions and customers.
Mm-hmm. And how many people are you responsible for?
Today I have an O2C team of 140 people, and they cover actually the different parts of the order to cash process. So I have an order entry team for a US entity around 35 people. I have a invoicing, master data, cash application team for Europe, Middle East entities around 30 people, collections, disputes team around 30 people again, and we have a fairly big cash allocation team for the US, Canadian entities as well, around 40 people as well. So it's a fairly big order to cash team servicing North America and Europe, Middle East regions mostly.
It's also good to hear that all the different parts of the order to cash function all report to you.
Yes.
You said invoicing, collections, dispute, cash allocation, and so on. Because I find it strange in certain organizations that they can actually have order to cash reporting to three separate managers, three separate areas. Credit does one, collections is another, and cash allocations another. I don't see how that can work as a joined up function.
Yeah, and I know that some of the companies are experimenting with the GPO, the Global Process Owner concept, which means that just as you said, that there is an ownership for the entire process. So some companies even do like customer to cash process. So even the customer acquisition, customer setup part is part of the order to cash. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really good if the process is in one hand, because then it's not like it's the silo thinking is not really present, and that helps a lot when working with customers.
Absolutely. And back in the old days, we used to just call it the credit department, because all these different areas, credit risk management, collections, cash allocation, disputes, all come about primarily because every company trades with every other company on credit. Yeah, so it's and I also sometimes struggle with all this O2C, I2C, C2C, P2C, and so on as well. But that's I think you're definitely in the right. It's definitely right that you everything all reports through a one vertical. So as you say, it avoids the temptation for silo thinking.
Yeah.
So nowadays we're interesting times these days. How's the recent virus situation impacted your company?
Yeah, I think like many other companies around the world, we ordered work from home as a BCP solution, as a business continuity solution. And actually, to be honest, it's not that easy at the beginning, because we just started to see. I think, I mean, and I'll be very honest, even I did not take this virus situation that seriously at the beginning. We saw the news from China, but did not really expect it will have any repercussions on our operations. And then certainly when a virus appeared in the neighboring office building close to our office building, and then those companies actually ordered home office, then other companies ordered home office, then we start to realize that this thing is really here. I mean, the virus is really here. We need to do precautions. We also um, we actually offered the work from home to our employees to work from home, and some guys actually did not want to do it. They were hesitating. They said they are better off in the office, better working conditions. So we actually had to instruct them that, well, look, this is for your safety. You got to stay home. You cannot use public transportation every day and interact with people in the office building. You must stay home. So at the end, we ordered all stuff into the home office environment. I must say that there were some kind of administration, client approvals, change of contracts. So we had to work around that in a fairly short period of time. Let's say within a week or so. We had to provide laptops, as almost like 40% of my population did not have laptops, just desktop in the office. So we had to arrange new laptops, set those up for the employees. That was also a big thing. And then this home work from home environment actually raises a couple of questions like responsibility, liability. What happens if an accident happens at home, if someone slips and falls on the floor? Is that a workplace accident or a home accident? So lots of things had to be sorted out in a very short period of time. But I think we are through that now. We are kind of business as usual. I would say that everyone is working from home safely. Um, I must also admit that not everything can be done from home. We have a paper activities that are still needs to be done in the office. For example, printing certain invoices where customers require print and mail, or enveloping those invoices, or printing some credit notes, statements, dunning letters where the steel paper is used. We do need to have someone from the staff who goes to the office once a week or twice a week and do that do those activities in the office. But I would say that with 95% confidence that we're good working from home as a business as usual environment. Also, our results and KPIs are not affected by the change, so we're good now.
There's a couple of good points you raised there. The first one, you were saying about some people were reluctant to do the home office thing, and I think that's important that everybody who's in this situation, which is pretty well all of us, that we recognize that as humans, we're actually social animals, and
Yeah.
the workplace is important to the majority of us. To socialize, to interact, to just to be amongst other people, and in a very quick space of time, we've been forced into this unusual situation. I know most people do home office 1 or 2 days a week. That's quite normal, but to have to do it now 7 days a week for a protracted period of time
Yeah.
is something unusual. And there's a lot of responsibility on you as a manager, and all your team leaders and managers and other people to make sure that there's regular interaction with all your employees by verbally, I would say, not phoning everybody every day rather than just sending out an email. Or as I saw on LinkedIn recently, somebody was lauding that we've made an app that means that people can tell us how they're doing, and
Yeah.
I thought, oh my word, and I thought, no, just make sure you phone everybody. Hey, hi, how are you doing? How's everything? How are your kids? Do you need anything? That's so important. The responsibility on managers and team leaders to make sure that everybody is okay is paramount right now.
Yes, and we had to build up new ways, operating mechanism, new ways of working. Like some of my team leaders, they do like a daily call every morning, just like a daily stand up. They used to do in the office as well, around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Everyone logs in, and then they have a chat with the team. We also have it with other teams. I have regular meetings with my O2C managers weekly. And what we noticed, Mark, recently, that we started the usual way, so to have like calls, WebEx calls, and then my manager Peter raised that why don't we do video, because then we can also see each other. So it's not just talking, but it's a video chat. So recently we do the leadership meetings over video as well. It's actually quite nice when you see like 12 people, everyone in front of the laptop, everyone is leaning ahead and looking into the camera when talking. So it actually brings some of those personal touches into the discussion. But I agree with you. I mean, this is one of the big learnings that we had to learn: how to lead, how to manage, how to handle our people remotely in this virtual environment.
Good stuff, and it's going to take a lot of effort to keep that going, to maintain that freshness and contact on a regular basis. You were saying also that you've done well with the results. You've managed to maintain or indeed improve your KPIs. What do you think was the secret behind that?
I don't think there's such a big thing like a secret. I think we just started to look at data more cautiously. So, like, we went into a daily tracking of our performance wherever possible. Before that, I mean, if we looked at the major KPIs once a week, twice a week, that was sufficiently enough. Once we ordered this BCP situation, we wanted to track performance on a daily basis. So we have a daily tracker, and that's indeed a little bit of pain for the operations managers and team leaders, as they need to update their data every morning by 9 o'clock or 9:30. That's our internal agreement. But it really helps to see how the operations is performing. And we did have some days when we were missing some KPIs and some performance metrics, but overall we came back to the expected level, and March as a full month is actually quite good from a results perspective. So I think that was one thing, that a more tighter watch to the KPIs. The other was, and especially in collections and credit, that we started to look at the metrics differently. So instead of looking at only the absolute numbers, like revenues and past dues and AR, we also started to look at some ratios, because somehow we realized that in certain regions the past due is just looking too good. And then we actually realized that, well, also the revenue is falling because in that given country or in that given region, the sales is lower. So obviously the AR is also shrinking. So we also looked at the past due differently, not just the absolute level, but the past due percentage. That's also one way of so. So my message is that actually, I think, look deeper into the data recently, because the trends, if you see a trend, it might not be that straightforward now as it used to be. You need to look behind the composition of KPIs, the volumes, the metrics, what's really behind, what's in the business. That's my message on the measurements.
Good stuff. And we in the association, we through our training and presentations and so on, we've been advocating for quite some time that a recession was imminent, and recommending that overdues be as close to zero as possible, or maximum of 2.5% overdue, as we said. Mm-hmm. Do you see? Can you imagine that other companies that have been going along with double-digit overdues will be struggling right now?
I can imagine that. I think more and more companies are struggling. I mean, the economy is clearly slowing, and obviously it affects different sectors differently. We work, our clients work in the medical devices sector, which is partially impacted positively, but also partially impacted negatively, because certain therapies or certain treatments are actually postponed and delayed because of the new virus. So we see mixed impact. I can imagine that other companies, especially in the impacted industries like oil and gas, or car rentals, or tourism facing industries, traveling focusing industries, probably is even a much tougher call now.
Certainly. So a slight change of tack, with employees being at home now, or pretty well everybody being at home most of the time. Do you think there is more time available, like time not commuting, that people could focus on self-development and do things themselves that would be of benefit?
I think that's partially true, because indeed they save time on commuting, but on the other hand, staying home, especially those who have families, it actually requires some extra task, extra burden on the shoulder of on top of the daily work. So, but I think, yes, definitely, if there's a time to invest in learning and yourself for anyone, then I think they should do it now. Let me just give you an example. Last night I did a digital disruption training. In the Cognizant Academy is very good in offering trainings online, and it was very usefully spent 1 hour of my evening between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. So yeah, absolutely, it's definitely time to invest, to learn, to grow. One thing I would also like to mention, Mark, is actually on the discipline of working from home, because it's not easy for many people to follow the same daily operating rhythm that they had in the office, used to have in the office, and now they have to follow at home. I think what we can do, or we trying to do, especially with collections and dispute management, is just to have more stricter collection policy. So actually the guide that the collectors need to follow is now actually becoming more stricter, on one hand because of the crisis and we see customers paying slower, on the other hand to give more discipline to the day-to-day work of collectors. So I think that's also something we do. And one more thing I would mention, and that's specifically on credit, is that we are much more stricter now on credit limits. So the flexibility that we may have had in the past when working with commercial and sales team, I think that's no more the case. We are really strict on credit limits, and often we have orders running on hold because of credit limits is exhausted. But I think that's good, so that we need to be more vigilant, more cautious, given this slowing economy situation.
That's a very good point, and I think a lot of people will be experiencing a challenging situation, a financial crisis, recession, however it wants to be described, for the first time. I think what you're saying there is that this is actually leading to reinforcing the basic good habits. What in the old days we used to call credit control. As you just said, credit limits, putting things on hold, and so on and so on. It's reinforcing the all the gold standards of effective cash flow and working capital management. And would you say, in your experience, that when we start to move out of this difficult time, that these disciplines will be maintained, or certainly a lot stricter enforced, and as you said, there was a lot more flexibility in the past?
I think yes, absolutely, and especially I think those leaders and managers who have grown into leadership role in the past 10 years. When I mean, look, the last 10 years was really like, in a way, it's a golden decade. Lots of growth everywhere, money, quantitative easing at the beginning of the decade. There was money and cash available everywhere. Lots of growth in new industries. Really, the Internet of Things has been springing up quickly. So I think after these golden 10 years, now some of these people are experiencing this crisis as a new, and I could experience that some new managers, some new team leaders, they were kind of hesitating how to react. I could see some worrying, some fear in their eyes initially. Oh, they were afraid of this virus situation, what to do, how to do. They were afraid of that their people will be impacted, their families will be impacted. So I think it took a while for many leaders to come around that anxiety and move into more the actions, how to react quickly. So I do think that the new rhythm, new operating practices that we learn and we implement, some of these will actually stay with us longer term as well. Let me just give you one example. I think uh, the way we work today, this virtual office, virtual teams, working from home everywhere, actually we don't really need an office anymore, or not the same size of office as before, because we realize that some of our O2C components can work remotely perfectly well. I think that's a big learning for everyone, and I think that's a part of that gonna definitely stay even after the crisis is gone.
And I think, yes, I agree. And also, I think, as always happens every 12 years or so, when there's a upheaval in the world, the credit team becomes realized how important it actually is, and everybody working in risk or collections and so on, they actually become the focal point of the company, which they should be anyway. But as we've seen through all the various cycles, they tend to fade back into the background and then become super important, like right now, when cash is king, and collecting as much as possible, reducing potential write-offs. So you and your team are probably the most highly focused team in the company right now. So I hope because a lot of managers in all areas, in sales or finance and marketing and so on, are actually realizing this, that as we go forward from here, that the credit teams will be treated with a lot more respect. As you know, it always winds me up when I hear any part of our area referred to as back office. How can those of us that, because we actually safeguard the biggest asset in every company, or biggest current asset, trade receivables, how can any part of that ever be back office?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
There are many opportunities, I think, also for people to step up to the plate and to shine and to be shown to be leaders. So whether they're at associate level or team leader or managers or directors, I think there's great opportunities for people to really come through and step up to the plate and show what they're capable of. Have you seen any examples of good leadership through the last few weeks?
Yes, I've seen some colleagues, and some colleagues who actually kind of like change agents in this BCP situation. So how to get our colleagues up and running quickly in their home environment, how to motivate them. I do see some team leaders, some managers who are really role models in managing their teams remotely, motivating them, still talking to them. While I also see other examples, more negative examples, some leaders who are really struggling with this. So they just really cannot manage people only on the phone, or on Microsoft Teams or on WebEx or Skype. So I do see examples of both. But yeah, absolutely, there are some talents who really stand out, and they can show their skills. I must also say that it's definitely more difficult for them because the visibility is much more limited. So it's more confined to the phone calls and sometimes video calls and presentations. But still, there are good people, talents who really stand out.
I think you hit on the main point, and it applies whether in a difficult situation or not. That if there's kind of shape and focus, it gives people a sense of direction. And you said you emphasize the credit policy, and you emphasize the targets and the results. You put a lot of visibility on that. So all your people, whether they're in the office or at home, they have the direction. This is what we need to do this month, is to achieve this. So that's and I think that's so important. Like you said, a lot of people are going to struggle, whether they're CFOs or managers or directors or associates. They're going to struggle because they haven't got that order, that as you said, you use the word discipline and direction. I think that's so critical at whatever stage, whatever stage we are. You need to have a direction. So
yeah.
Okay. What habits or working practices have you personally changed since the last month, since you've been working from home?
I think so. The biggest one, I think I mentioned this earlier, that we still need to do the same work from home, do the calls, do the meetings. And some of these are not new because with the not locally based people, we always had calls and WebEx and Skype up and running. I think the new thing is that we do that with our own colleagues as well, whom otherwise we could meet in the office. I think one of the big changes is that staying at home gives you opportunity to interact with the family. In my case, my wife, my children. So in morning, during breaks, or in lunch break, in the afternoon after work. So I think that's one of the great things about home office environment. Also, I do feel that because of that, you actually need to be more productive. So you have a given time window to do certain activities. You really have to do that. So focus on the really important thing. And the biggest learning for me is the shift between work time and family time, while still being in the same room and at home. So that's the biggest learning, that sometimes in 1 minute I'm in a family mode, hugging my little baby and my wife, and in the next minute I'm on a call with colleagues from India and United States and Budapest and London. So that's that kind of adapting to the shifts in the work and the family mode. I think that's a big learning for me. And also sometimes at the end of the day, I do have some time for exercising. Like last night after 6 p.m. we went out bicycling with the kids, only for half an hour, but that still was great. So that thing, I couldn't do that because I would be commuting at that time if I was in an office. I were in the office. So that kind of work practices and habits are definitely good, and I like them.
Good stuff. And of course, I have to shameless plug. Yesterday you received the updated foundation e-learning modules as well, so you'll find time to do that as well. Of course you will.
Yeah.
and all your people too. There's my shameless plug for the day.
No, absolutely. We always have the evening and the night for that. Yeah, for training. No, but absolutely, I think it's really serious that we can spend some time on learnings and developing ourselves, including your e-learning course as well.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Finally, so knowing what we know over the last few weeks, what advice would you share with the credit community at large?
Uh, so I think if I could summarize it, maybe like two, three key messages is I think in these turbulent times, just be very vigilant and cautious. On one hand, with the data, with the trends, as I mentioned earlier, if you see a trend graph, be careful how you read it properly. You understand what is behind. I think that's and things are changing on a daily basis. You could see that in the past 2-3 weeks in the economic and business life. So I think that's one thing. So be vigilant and cautious with data. The second message is actually trusting and empowering our colleagues in the new circumstances, but at the same time also keeping them accountable. And as I said earlier, we like introduce some more rigorous performance management, things like that. And it will definitely ease after some time, but initially your people, empower them, but still keep them accountable under the new circumstances as well. And the third one, and I think that's really important for everyone working in a bigger corporation, bigger business, is that manage your stakeholders, because things are changing on stakeholder side. So if you are in credit, then your sales is definitely going through a tough time. Your commercial guys are also facing issues and difficulties. Your controllers and finance and cash managers are also having some hard time to find the cash. So manage your stakeholders, stay close with them, understand the reality, because I realize that their success is actually is a very critical component of your success as well. So that would be my three key points.
And that's a very good point, isn't it? To be empathetic to each other, because it's an unusual time, and everybody needs to realise that we're all moving into uncharted territory. I think that's very good advice.
Yeah.
Laszlo, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and sharing your story with the wider credit community.
Thank you, Mark. It was a great discussion. Thank you very much, and I hope you found some good, useful points in our discussion. So thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day today.
You as well. Good luck with everything. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.